you're going to continue to put pressure and intimidate and harass the positive forces in your community, guess what? They're going to leave. They're not going to deal with that. There are certain cops that are bad cops. We know that. They're bad cops, they're bad doctors, they're bad lawyers, they're bad in everything. But most of them are trying to do their job. Let me finish. When I was young, I just got my driver's license when I was 15 and a half, 16, and I got stopped 30, 40 times because I looked young. And they pulled me over and they said, I'm sorry, you look too young, I see your license. I was polite, they were polite. With one or two exceptions. One or two cops said something that I thought was inappropriate. I filed a complaint one time, nothing much happened. But for the most part, the cops who pulled me over explained to me why they pulled me over, and it was sad. You said that, the majority of police officers are good people. Yeah. Okay. Now, what I keep hearing the both of you say is that there are some people in the African American community that cause problems. So the rest of us should suffer for that. And you know what? There are the majority of African Americans who are good people. That's true. Okay.
Come on. What's up?
profile black people.
We believe they racially profile.
Yes, they do.
Yes, we do.
Because we had a town hall meeting, and so many people hands went up that this has happened to them.
Because there was a survey, they asked, like, how many people has this happened to? And so many people in the audience raised their hand. Out of 150, 40 or 50 people raised their hand and said, yes, this has happened to me. But for some reason, they don't stop.
Even if you
Automatically think that you're racially profiled simply because you're black. You're going to give an attitude. You're going to give attitude. That kind of brainwash that we have to change within the organization.
Which you need to understand. So
Again, I repeat, if you feel that you're a victim. But I also agree with Jesse. Most officers are simply trying to do their job, and they have dangerous jobs. And we ought to appreciate and respect what they're doing for us out there every day. And make sure that we weed out the bad ones. When we come back, we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk to two women who say that they are discriminated against because of their black-sounding names. Don't go away. We'll be right back. So, what would you do if you didn't get the job that you wanted because of your black-sounding name? A recent study shows that workplace discrimination begins well before the job even shows up for an interview. This is T-Book Gator. Now, after sending out close to 100 resumes and receiving only 2 callbacks, people began to wonder, hey, is it because of my name? Why do you feel it was because of your name?
Well, I graduated from Alabama A&M University with honors. Started sending out resumes, hundreds, probably even over 100. No callbacks, I got about 2 or 3, but that was very discouraging. So I was like, what's wrong with this? What am I not doing right? Or am I not qualified for the jobs? Or I'm setting my expectations too high? What's going on? So basically I just got to thinking. I was about a conversation that me and my girlfriends had about names and how we could tell if names were black sounding. So I said, well, I'm going to try this. I'm going to start putting T Gator.
Number to IHOP. What? Just saying, I'm Goliath. The United.
You are sipping tea, listening to great music, just taking a break from all the busyness. You deserve this. But wait a minute, is this an...
We're back discussing controversial forms of racial profiling.
Hi, how are you? I moved out here from Boston with my son, and he's...
It is a game thuggish look. And so that is the reality. You're still women to you.
Just because the hip hop world or
that's reality of it.
The black or certain blacks decide to wear their clothes.
Hi Jesse, I'm Kim. I'm really upset about a lot of things you're saying. To me, my opinion, you're being racist profiling yourself. How dare you say some of the things that you're saying?
You always should profile.
Okay?
When I say that it is my responsibility as a parent to make sure that my children get the best opportunities that they can get by making them dress properly, work hard, and do what's right. How is that racial profiling? And when I say that when the officers stop you, don't give them an attitude, because if you're not guilty of anything, there's no reason to have an attitude. How is that racial? How am I wrong about that?
How is having two earrings in your cornrows projecting an attitude?
It is.
How is that projecting an attitude?
It's a game look.
I mean, what is a game look? It's a game look. I mean, we all know. Okay, we all know. Let's be real about it. There are certain situations when certain attire should be worn.
The one you comment. Go ahead.
But if I'm driving in my car down the street,
hold on, Antonio. LaWanda, make the final comment.
The attitude comes in when it's not being stopped. It's how we're treated once we're stopped. We're treated like...
Okay. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. We're back, and we have time for just one last word. Using race as one of many variables is frankly a standard and established police practice. But stopping someone solely because of their race, I repeat, solely because of their race, is illegal, and it does happen, and it's wrong. But the overwhelming majority of cops who are out there serving their community are good people who are putting their lives on the line for us. There are some bad apples, and the cops I know hate these bad apples because they make the rest of them look bad. As far as black-sounding names go, Jesse Peterson's got a point when he says that there are some people who will draw negative inferences from those names. It's just a fact of life. But I've run a business, and if you're watching this and you have a business, then you've got to know how hard it is to get good, hard-working, competent employees. And to exclude a qualified applicant just because of his or her name is just not smart business. Thank you for watching. This is the Larry Older Show, and we'll see you next time. And today we're letting our viewers weigh in with their reactions to the comments and opinions of some of our past guests. One past guest created a storm of controversy when he said he wouldn't hire a person with a black-sounding name. Watch this.
I think parents do a disservice to their children by giving them these so-called black names. We are in America, and I have employees working for me, and when I run across a name like Shanae or whatever they call them, I tend to put those to the side because I know that I'm going to have attitude in my business.
You hire people in your organization.
I do.
You got a resume and it said Tikwa Jones or Mary Jones. You wouldn't call Tikwa Jones back because her name is Tikwa?
Most likely no.
Please welcome back Jesse Lee Peterson and two of the thousands of viewers, I mean thousands, who responded to Jesse's interview. They are Mystique and Maurice. All right, Jesse, why do you suppose so many people would take off?
Most people hate the truth. In America today, if you tell the truth...
He's starting already, isn't he?
In America today, if you tell the truth, you're hated for it. But we must tell the truth in order to keep America going.
All right,
we cannot tell the truth.
Okay, and in your opinion, Jesse, the truth is that people with black-sounding names are angry?
Absolutely. That's why they create a so-called black-sounding name, because they want to separate themselves from white Americans and from America.
Okay,
all right, this young lady's name is Mystique. Is that a black-sounding name?
It sounds more like a striptease name or something like that.
Wait. If you got her resume, would you talk to the side?
I would.
Okay, I do get the question a lot when people haven't met me. Am I a black woman? And I'm not.
You're on the phone talking to somebody?
Or I've turned in a resume, or through family and friends, people that have never met me ask, well, is she a black woman?
Well, it doesn't necessarily sound like
My whole point is, I'm not done. My whole point is that by you making that kind of statement is the most ridiculous thing in the world, because you should not judge somebody just called their name. I am a white woman, brown hair, blue-eyed, and if you could sit there and say that you would pass my resume up, it's ridiculous.
What you have to realize is that I'm in business to make money.
And I
to earn a living.
I'm a very
That is not my responsibility to develop your character. You're out there, you're responsible, as an adult, you're responsible for yourself.
Exactly.
And so you should prepare yourself so that you can be hired or in the job.
You're going to put my resume inside just because of my name.
No.
And then you comment about saying that I might be a
But don't I have a
stripper.
right to protect my business?
No, you don't. Because you're being ignorant. You have a right to protect your business, not by somebody's name.
Maurice, how are you protecting your business by not hiring black people?
It's not the black person, it's the black name.
It's the black name. You have to assume that a black name goes with the black person.
Well, you know, I know in advance that if you sit back and create a so-called black name, then you have a lot of anger. And in my business, you're rebelling against America, against white America. And in my business, I already know that
the person didn't name herself.
Right.
Mom or dad gave the name.
Yeah.
So if anybody's angry, it's mom or dad, not the kid.
Well, the kids become like the parents. And as I said before, it's very selfish of parents to give their children that type of name because they have a responsibility to make sure that their children are able to succeed in life as much as possible.
So
but once we become an adult, we have a responsibility, so we can change that name.
Maurice, isn't at least this part true? You have a name that's unusual. Yeah. You send that resume to somebody. Somebody else gets another resume with a standard name. The person with the unusual name is probably going to have a more difficult time getting a call back. Isn't that this reality?
It's probably reality, but it is reality because of thinking like this. That's what it boils down to.
You're right. But you're right about that.
You are, I assume, over 50.
I'm 55.
40 years ago was 1964.
Yes.
As a 55-year-old black man, how can you come on national television? You, of anybody in America, a 55-year-old black man must know better.
I do.
You've gone through things in your life that I had,
right.
And I hopefully, pray to God, I never will. How can you justify coming on national TV and saying that I would not hire someone with a black name, even though in my life I have been judged the same way?
You're right. You're right. You're right. I grew up on a plantation in Alabama. I remember the signs that says for whites only, for colors only. So I know discrimination when I see it. But that was then. That was then. This is now. Slavery is over. White folks are not waking up every morning at the breakfast table trying to figure out how to hold you down. They have their own issues to deal with.
You're doing it for them.
When I start a business, it is my responsibility to provide a good environment as much as possible. And it's hard enough dealing with people as it is. So why bring in someone that I already know is angry at society?
How do you know that this person is angry if
you create this so-called black name? That's ridiculous within itself. I have to look at the most qualified person I think is going to work for my business.
I'm not even going to look at my resume because it's my name.
We're going to take a break, and we're going to go into the audience and get some questions and answers from the audience. But I want to say this to Mystique and to Maurice and to the listeners and viewers. I don't agree with Jesse Lee's position on names. I made that clear last time. I'm making it clear again. I think, Jesse, what you are doing is making a very foolish generalization and losing out.
It's a wise. No, it's a wise generalization. It's a wise.
And you're losing out on the possibility of getting very good workers. That said, Maurice, I went to visit Jesse Lee, lives in the inner city. And he has a nonprofit organization. It's a self-help organization to get people cleaned up off the streets and to lead a better life. I went into his house, The guy sitting over there, I said, who's that guy? And Jesse said he was a homeless guy, got him off the street. Black guy. Another guy in another room, who's that guy? Homeless guy, got him off the street. He had 4 or 5 people that he'd gotten off the street living in his house to try to turn their lives around. So he's not an enemy. He's a good man. He's not an enemy.
How you look at it.
Yeah. He's wrong about this issue, but I just want you to know something about his character, that's all. Well, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. We're back, and today our viewers are confronting some of our most controversial past guests. Maurice and Mystique were just 2 of our viewers who responded to Jesse's statements. They called us, and they're here today to confront him.
Yes. I was wondering if a person had a Hispanic sounding name, would you still have the same bias towards them?
No, I wouldn't.
So it's just African Americans that you have a bias towards?
What you don't realize, there's no such thing as a black name. So you have to, something have to be wrong with you to create that kind of environment for yourself. And so if I already know that that's trouble, why would I want to bring that to my business? A Hispanic person gonna have a Hispanic name. A black American should have an American name, not a black name.
You know what the word traitor means?
Traitor?
Traitor.
I do, yes.
When you look in the mirror in the morning, do you realize that you are one?
No, I'm not. How am I a traitor?
You are taking a general stereotype of what you see in the mirror. There's something in your past that has made you hate or dislike yourself. And you bring that to the table every time.
What kind of person would create a black name? Does that make sense to you?
You just said there's no such thing as a black name.
I know, but doesn't that tell you
Jesse, when you hire people, have you had an experience where you brought in somebody with a quote black sounding name and that person was angry and it happened over and over and over again, so now you have reached the conclusion that black sounding names are names that people have who are angry?
I haven't had it in my business, but I know friends of mine who have. I am wise enough not to bring that kind of trouble into my business. I know how black folks think.
All right. So Jesse, everybody with the quote black sounding name, hold on. Everybody with the black sounding name should go down to the Hall of Register right now and change their name.
What I'm saying is that if they have a black sounding name, they need to realize that is holding them back in life. And if you want to succeed, whether you like it or not, that's what you like it or not, it's happening.
Okay. Hold on. Jesse, Mystique, hold on, please.
I think there's an old adage. There's certainly a lot of discussion, and people have their viewpoints, but don't judge a book by its cover. It's one of the most oldest and simplest pieces of wisdom. And what Larry and a lot of the other people are saying about stereotyping and generalization is embodied in that very simple.
What you need to realize, if I start my own business, I have the right to do what I want in my business. And if you want a job from me, you need to prepare yourself for that. It is not my responsibility to hire you because you named yourself with a black name. You're holding yourself back. That is, I'm not your mama, I'm not your daddy. It is your responsibility.
All right, Jesse, is Condoleezza a black sounding name?
Not to me, it's not. Condoleezza Rice's parents did not decide, well, I hate white Americans, so I'm going to create a black name.
How do you know
There's a difference in that.
How do you know that?
I mean, look at the woman.
How do you know Tamika or Takesha's mother didn't feel the same way? How do you know?
Do you know any American name with Tanisha?
What is an American name?
All right, hold on.
Okay, my question is to you. If you hired me and my name was like Mary or Sherry, and I still came and messed up your business, wouldn't you feel a little crunchy then? Wouldn't you feel kind of stupid?
No.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Like I said, it's hard enough dealing with people anyway. So, but if I had a person by the name of Mary and she was trouble, I'd get rid of her. I would do that.
You can't hide. You can't hide from being black, no matter how tired you try.
How am I trying to hide from being black?
Because
I want you to be your best. What's wrong with that?
And how can I be my best if you're trying to
prepare yourself?
How can I prepare myself for a name I never gave myself?
But you're an adult. You can change your first name. You have a right to change your first name.
Why
so that it doesn't hold you back in life.
It's disrespectful.
What's disrespectful?
Your parents named you a name because that's what they wanted.
But had your parents loved you, they wouldn't have given you a black name.
So Jesse, So Jesse, Maurice, you okay? Maurice, you okay? Maurice, you all right, man? So, Maurice, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay, Maurice. We're gonna take a break. Don't go away. After a public school teacher, Brandy Stokes, appeared on the show, we did call Is This Discrimination or Not? We received almost 2,000 emails. Little lesson for you. Brandy is back with us today, and she'll meet viewers who both support her and oppose her. That's next. Don't go away.
And we're back. I hope you enjoyed that nice throwback. Jesse Lee Peterson on the Larry Elder TV show. Did you know that Larry Elder hosted a TV show? So awesome. And Jesse made him cry at the end. So funny. But I mean, you could tell that he was soft and about to break. And stuff. But Jesse told him the truth. Jesse Lee Peterson. I am James Hake, filling in for the Jesse Lee Peterson show. I host the Hake Report, and I will be hosting after the show. We'll see what I have for you. But in the coming hour, we're coming down to the end of this hour. I am accepting calls now. You can call in 888-775-3773, which is 888-77-JESSE. And we'll be talking about the, what white supremacy thing. Oh, are we starting the next hour? Is that where I cut off? Okay, cool. We'll be talking about white supremacy because they're scaremongering about white supremacy, pretending it's so important that President Trump condemn it. President Trump actually broke. Well, he didn't break, but he listened apparently to his advisors and condemned the Proud Boys. You shouldn't condemn the Proud Boys. They're decent. But he did it. I want to know what you guys think about it. And I'll give my opinion as well. And I'll give my take on the reaction to that too. And by the way, the Proud Boys, well, not all of them, right? But over in like Utah, they did a little thing with Black Lives Matter. They did like a joint press conference kissing up to Black Lives Matter people. And I don't think that Black Lives Matter was exactly kissing up to them. Yeah. Okay, it's fixed. So we're coming to the end of the hour. I will be getting to all of your calls. The FBI, shout out to Big Buck for the tip, but the FBI released their crime data, crime stats, national crime stats for 2019. I'll touch on that. Blacks are basically consistent with what they've been over the past, couple of decades. So it's pretty crazy. And I have more and more and more. The National Council of Churches is condemning white supremacy and President Trump. It's ridiculous. John Roberts of Fox News acted really strangely. And it turns out that big tech, you know, the people who like to censor you on social media, they can do a whole mass censorship of a whole political movement, according to Revolver News. So I'm going to be touching on all of that. And former Jesse Lee Peterson guest, Scott Adams. Did he say that he's not going to vote for Trump? I don't know. We're going to cover it. We're coming to the end of the hour. So in this next hour, I will be taking your calls. So are we able to play this intro thing? All right, let's get started with hour 2 with the Jesse Lee Peterson Show, hosted by Hake.
I know we can find
Welcome to hour 2 of the Jesse Lee Peterson Show. I am James Haight, filling in for Jesse Lee Peterson. Jesse Lee Peterson is out speaking at the 21 conference, or the 21st conference, if he was pronouncing it right, but I think it's the 21 conference for men and women. He will be speaking there, I believe today and tomorrow. And he will be back for Church with Jesse Lee Peterson. Church with Jesse Lee Peterson is every Sunday, 11 a.m. U.S. Pacific Daylight Time, live from Bond in Los Angeles. If you're going to join us in person, come at 10:30 a.m. That's when doors open. You get a little coffee usually, and it's nice. I will be taking your calls, 888-77-JESSE, 888-775-3773. Am I hosting the Fallen State too today? I'm kidding. But the Fallen State is today at noon Pacific time. Who is Jesse Lee Peterson interviewing on the Fallen State? Is it that? I'm blanking on it. Do we have the let's go ahead and play that. Nice. Oh, it's Big Hurt. You know, I met him, I took a picture with him, I didn't recognize him though. Jesse Lee Peterson interviewed a well-known, what is he, an ex-convict named Big Hurt. Think I could take him? Check this out and let me know what you think. Next time on the Fallen State.
What was life like in prison? I was always thinking about getting out. I never thought about, oh man, I'm gonna go hang out with these dudes and spread. I'm gonna go over here and play dominoes. So you were in there 8 years? 8 years, 8 months. People on the street are institutionalized. They buy into the program that's fed to them, and they can't think outside of that. If you want to change the country, you pump money into it. They have these learning centers, trade schools, and they got rid of all the trade stuff and all the schools. That was a big thing. Welding, auto mechanics. Dude, you want to make people harder. Why not make them culturally happy? Have a happy society. Let me ask you about Black Lives Matter and people. What do you think about that? All this, you know, trying to disrupt our communities. It's a false flag. Do I love Trump? I'm a fan.
Very nice. I'm looking forward to catching that interview. Seems like a sensible man. I wonder what he did to be in prison. But he got out. Must have not been that bad. Well, you never know nowadays, right? What state is he from? Is he from California? I don't know. President Trump has let out some supposed non-violent criminals. And you know, that was while working with a black senator named Tim Scott. And Tim Scott is a total rhino. And Tim Scott was one of the people who was pushing President Trump to condemn Proud Boys. And if you don't know who Proud Boys are, they are well, most memorably, the former Jesse Lee Peterson guest, Vincent James, described them as a drinking fraternity. A drinking fraternity, because generally what the Proud Boys do is they meet up at a bar and just have fun and talk to each other. But it was started by a comedian slash talk host, centrist guy, sort of conservative, sort of libertarian, named Gavin McInnes from Canada. And he had a producer or assistant who did not want to quit looking at pornography. Young man. And just pretty degenerate. And this Gavin McInnes said, you know what, we need to start a movement to have guys quit looking at all this pornography and get out and meet women, become men. And one of their values is to so-called venerate the housewife. Venerate the housewife. Isn't that a nice thing? And their other thing is being proud or not apologizing for Western civilization, which means that you have freedom of speech, the right to carry guns, and generally, like, people are civilized. Western means like America, Europe, Canada, stuff like that. That's typically what you mean by Western civilization. And then maybe parts of Central and South America, the more civilized parts, right? I guess they count. But that's Western civilization, and we're constantly told that that's a dog whistle for racism, and that's what got the former Representative Steve King of Iowa in trouble for saying Western civilization. How'd that get linked up with so-called white supremacy and all that stuff? And some say, well, it was mostly white people who built Western civilization. Okay, fine. But that's not this so-called white supremacy thing. Or is it? I don't know. If that's what it is, then, hey, what's the problem with it? There is no problem with it. And so they're falsely smeared. They support President Trump generally. Some of them don't. Some of them are liberals. Some of these Proud Boy guys. It's generally got guys my age, plus or minus 15 or 20 years. If, you know, maybe some younger teenagers too. And maybe a boomer or two. But mostly they are Generation X, Generation Y, which is millennials, and Generation Z and whoever's younger than that. And they're just a bunch of people who are just pretty much decent. And they're younger men, able-bodied men, so they show up at these free speech rallies and things and stand in the way between Antifa and free speech people or conservative speakers. They showed up to defend, you know, Ann Coulter, but Ann Coulter didn't show up because there was a crazy situation where Antifa wanted to riot over Ann Coulter speaking in Berkeley or something like that. And same thing with Milo, I think. And with Lauren Southern, these are just big name, semi-conservative, criticize Muslims sometimes with regard to Islamic terror and this fear-mongering about Islamophobia, and concerned more about blaming America for Islamophobia and just trying to force this dumb diversity stuff on America. But it's funny because the Proud Boys themselves, because it's a bunch of young people, and we've had this diversity forced on us, there's a lot of diverse, decent-minded people who are in the Proud Boys. It's not even mostly white. And if it were, they would still have the right to be that way. This is America. But there's this dumb pressure from rhinos like Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham to condemn them. So I'm going to play a clip of President Trump condemning them later. By the way, President Trump and his wife Melania tested positive for COVID-19. That's the Chinese/commie virus. I wonder if they will suffer any symptoms. I have one friend who caught it. I wasn't one to hang out with this friend, but you know, he told me about it, and it hit him pretty hard. He's in his early to mid 20s. I don't know exactly his age, but he caught it, and he worked at a place where they said, you know what, stay home for 2 weeks. In fact, I think that's what they generally do. If you catch this thing, you got to quarantine for 14 days. He suffered for 2 days, I would say, it sounded like, and it hit him pretty hard. Everything that you can get with a flu, he got. Like crazy body aches, loss of taste, sense of taste and smell, and all the old injuries felt like they were coming back, and he had a fever, and then whatever, and upset stomach, not throwing up, but the other thing, TMI, I don't know, but it hit him pretty hard. But then he was fine, and then he was just chilling for a week and a half. Better safe than sorry, right? Don't want to spread your germs to old people. Or to anybody else. That's common decency. When you're sick, stay home, keep your distance from people, and cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze or yawn. Stuff like that. Crazy. I'm gonna be getting to your calls, but President Trump tweeted tonight. He tweeted last night. Tonight, FLOTUS, meaning the First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump, and I tested positive for COVID-19. We will begin our quarantine and recovery process immediately. We will get through this together. Wayne Ronda says, Fireball whiskey kills it. Interesting theory. I don't know. It doesn't have sugar in it. Let me get to Earl in Michigan. He wants to comment on the presidential debate, which was, you know, it was pretty good. President Trump had to fight back against the lies of phony Joe Biden and, honestly, kind of phony Chris Wallace. He's a liberal. Chris Wallace of Fox News. Nice guy, but weak. He did not have the strength to keep it an orderly discussion. And in fact, he jumped in and interrupted President Trump way too much. But he was overly nice to Joe Biden and didn't check Joe Biden on his lies and weak answers and stuff. Anyway, here's Earl from Michigan. Earl, how you doing?
Hola, buenos dias. Still going too.
Welcome to the Jesse V. Peterson Show. I'm doing fine. How are you?
Fine. I want to comment on what your caller from
should have given Trump the deference to say what he wanted to say. And I somewhat agree with that, but honestly, it's actually common decency and in the interest of the American people to let the president make his counterpoint to Joe Biden's lies. But yeah, he said that they should show more respect for the president, and that is a fair point. What do you say to that? All right. Earl fell asleep. Earl, are you there? Huh, interesting. We'll check on it. Jeb Ijar says Chris Wallace stunk. He said it differently. And was protecting and making it easy for Biden. Yeah, you know, the liberal media is able to create this false reality, this false illusion. Yeah, Earl just fell off a bit. Maybe he has an Obama phone still. They're able to make this false reality where they think white supremacy is like a real issue that people should comment on. Like, where is it? I haven't seen anything. They talk about Charlottesville, which was 3 years ago, August of 2017. Charlottesville, Virginia. What was called the alt-right had this rally called Unite the Right. And there were many people who called themselves white nationalists and many people who called themselves alt-right and many people who were just, according to a generally pretty honest man in terms of what he says is going on, Richard Spencer said that there were civic nationalists there, people who don't necessarily just want a white-only or white-majority country. They just want the country people to love America. They showed up at Lee Park over in Charlottesville, Virginia, and they were protesting the tearing down of Robert E. Lee's statue. They were planning on tearing down the Robert E. Lee statue to kiss up to black people because Robert E. Lee was a great Confederate general who owned slaves, eventually freed them, I think. He called it an evil, a political and moral evil. But he owned slaves and he kept them working to save his plantation, or his father-in-law's plantation. After his father-in-law passed on, it was a mess and he had to fix stuff. And so Robert E. Lee is smeared because he was a Confederate general, and the Confederates fought on the Civil War for slavery to stay in place on behalf of the South. The South wanted to secede from the Union. But President Abraham Lincoln said, no, we want the country to stay united. And so we're going to fight you and we're going to kill each other until somebody wins and one gets to secede or stay in the Union. The North won, and so the South was not allowed to secede from the Union. They were not allowed to make the Confederate States of America. But now, and so they wanted the country united. But now, everybody wants to smear the South, and any semblance of, any reminder of the South and the Confederacy and all of that. And the Confederates, they also wanted things like states' rights, which is a very valid point to this day, actually. And they want freedom and able to self-determine. They don't want to be forced to do stuff by the federal government. And what does the federal government do today? Are they pushing anything good? Whatever you think about getting rid of slavery, look at what they're pushing now. They're pushing stuff like homosexuality on all of the states. That's the federal government in the form of the Supreme Court. Pushing same-sex marriage onto all of the states. It's not constitutional. It's ridiculous. And so the South has a whole lot of validity. A whole lot of validity. And the South are decent, Christian, both white and even the blacks in the South are more decent than the blacks in the cities in the North. They're less brainwashed, they're working, they're more country, more traditional. But even then, they are getting corrupt too, and the white Southerners are falling by the wayside too. Look at Texas, if you can even count that as the South. Texas is turning blue. Rhinos. But maybe that'll turn around because I believe that they have Alan West as who's a tough conservative man. He happens to be black, but he's solid in terms of being conservative, seemingly. So these people were protesting. They had the right to protest. They went to a court to get the right to protest. The ACLU pretended to be on their side, but the ACLU turned on them and smeared them as racist. And so did the local people over in Charlottesville. It's crazy. And then, so the Charlottesville Antifa, which is an outright anti-American group, and Black Lives Matter, also anti-American, anti-white, anti-black, honestly, group, attacked the people over in this Charlottesville, Virginia. But Charlottesville, they had guys, Joe Biden referenced it, their veins were bulging and carrying those tiki torches and saying anti-Semitic things like Jews will not replace us, right? Because a lot of people, a lot of young whites are getting upset at Jews because they think that Jews are disproportionately controlling the government and pushing this immigration stuff and degeneracy on America. And they have some valid points with that. They shouldn't be angry about it or feel like victims about it, but they have the right to say it. This is America. But no, they want to clamp down on that. Joe Biden based his whole campaign on Trump saying there were very fine people on both sides, which there were. But that was an example. Charlottesville was primarily an example of left-wing violence, with a couple of instances of what I guess you might call right-wing violence. A black guy got beat up in a parking garage. I don't know the whole story with that. I don't know if it was provoked or unprovoked. And a car drove into a crowd driven by a guy who's had issues. A single mother, angry person, angry young man. The Antifa people were hitting his car. So there's even more to the story with that case. But they're pretending that's a right-wing violence. That is white supremacy. Nope. It's not white supremacy. Those were whites trying to stand up for themselves in an imperfect way. And there's nothing to condemn with that. You can condemn the violence on many sides. President Trump has been quite fair with that. So, Earl from Michigan is back and he wants to comment on this debate thing with President Trump versus Joe Biden and Chris Wallace. Earl, what happened to your phone? You have an Obama phone?
I don't know. As soon as I saw the speaker, you claimed you couldn't hear me. But,
I couldn't hear you. Nobody could hear you.
Well, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I could hear you, but evidently you couldn't hear me. But, you explained what you think the debate should be. That's not how debates are thought out.
Okay, Mom.
Designed.
Okay, Mom.
No, just know exactly what you're talking about.
You don't know what you're talking about.
In debate, if you ever seen debate before, they set up, it's not dependent on the title of the people that debate. Certain people would, for instance, a governor who's challenging an incumbent or just a private citizen to a position, he don't get special rights or special consideration just because of his title and so forth. each person is put on equal footing. They agreed to the rules of the debate committee, and therefore they are bound by that. So it's not the title. You don't get judging to somebody because of the title. That includes the president or whoever debating. Everybody's on equal footing. Everybody agrees on the debate. Not one gets special rights and the other don't. That would be unfair.
But Earl, Trump wasn't asking for special rights. He was asking for the ability to address the lies. They made statements about him, and he wasn't allowed to address them. And honestly, Earl, you can take your rules and shove them. Shove them. Because it's so rich.
Just because this man that you worship says he's a law and order, but when it comes to order, he wants to dismiss it when it comes to him.
It's so rich, Earl. Oh, his phone's messed up. No more Earl. No more Earl. Oh yeah, the first call I took was a banned caller. Oh, Joe Maddox, thank you, man. I totally forgot that Earl is banned from the Jesse Lee Peterson show. Well, that was an act of God, I guess. That his phone disconnected. I didn't do it, but yeah, I forgot all about that, man. Because he's not banned on my show. But yeah, it's so funny. It's so rich when Democrats, of all people, complain about rules not being followed. They don't support the immigration rules being followed. They don't support the rule that the Supreme Court doesn't make laws.
more. This is the Jesse Lee Peterson Show. We'll be right back in a minute, and I will be getting to your calls. I appreciate you guys. Hang tight.
So, here's what I recommend. I invite you to download my silent prayer, and I want you to start doing it. You just download it, get the points of how to do it, and then after a while you just do it on your own. It's going to point you in the right direction that your life will be returned to you from God. He will give you your life back, because anyone and all people who has anger, they're not themselves. You are the person that you are angry at. That's why it's so important to get to know yourself so that you can see who you're angry at. And if you're doing the hooping and hollering prayers and things like that, some people get up, oh, praise the Lord, hooping and holler, bless my mama, bless my daddy. Continue to do it. Do both. You will see if you want to stay with the hooping and hollering, or do you want to be still and know God. So my gift to you, no charge, at rebuildingtheman.com/church.
What's up, everybody? We're back. We ran into a little bit of issues this morning, but fret not. We are back. We got some super chats. I will be reading your super chats. Appreciate them, guys. I'm a little bit behind. But let me get to Isaiah out of Los Angeles, who wants to comment on this whole white supremacy scaremongering thing. And then I'll play for you President Trump condemning Proud Boys on Sean Hannity's TV show on Fox News. Isaiah, what's up?
Hey, good morning, James.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Appreciate it. Okay, so I'm hearing the term white supremacy everywhere, and I haven't seen any white supremacists burning down cities, murdering anybody in the streets, looting, yet it's always in the media saying, hey, white supremacists are the biggest threat to national security, and
yeah, it's ridiculous.
The people going and doing everything most of the time aren't white, and if they are, they're those anti-fascist people.
Right. And
go ahead.
And you know what? Like, most of the crime, too, is committed by non-whites, I dare say, or disproportionately, is not being committed by these so-called white nationalists. They're not even committing petty crimes that I know of.
Yep, and if you look at the crime statistics, they even lump in Hispanics with whites because of they want to have, like, the numbers more balanced out.
Yeah, exactly. It's silly. And it shows you that the people who are in charge of the government, you know, who are the unelected bureaucrats, the FBI, the DHS, who have, some of the top guys there have been claiming that white supremacist extremist violence or whatever is the most lethal threat in terms of domestic terrorism. Domestic terrorism is like a narrowly defined thing, but even that, I don't think even that is true. I was looking at a report from the Red Elephants, who keep very, very good statistics on this stuff, and per capita, blacks are way more likely to be black nationalists and way more likely to commit political violence. And then the Muslims, they're like, what, less than 3% of the population? Probably even less than that. And they're disproportionately committing the crazy terror attacks. And yeah, you have to watch out for angry whites now more than ever because of the family breakdown. And what do you expect when you endlessly attack and falsely smear whites? Some of them are going to react very badly. So they're only increasing the problem by lying and pretending that this is a real issue that they have to clamp down on. They're going to create an issue by doing that, which is what they've been doing. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's a huge tactic by nefarious people to try and polarize the citizens of its country to keep them divided, the whole divide and conquer tactics.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to play a clip by a reporter who surprised me. A Fox News reporter later, named John Roberts. It shocked me the way that he was treating this like it's a real thing. But when I thought about it, he is a Washington, D.C. reporter. And from what I understand about Washington, D.C., it's a very liberal, corrupt, living in their own little world place where they act like they build up this false reality for themselves. It's kind of like the media world. They have this false reality for themselves where whites are this huge threatening problem. And it has nothing to do with what's everyday reality. It's like they don't see the riots, the killings, and the coronavirus shutdowns that are helping to destroy America. It's crazy. I call it coronavirus shutdowns. It's really Democrat shutdowns. It's nuts.
Yeah, if you look at a lot of red states, they did better during this than the blue states. The blue states tried to implement as many laws that they could to try and like seize power and just basically right. And it seems like that's happening with most Democrats. You know, they get social services on the taxpayer dollars, and then like your rights are taken away. They try and say, hey, we don't like free speech. We're all censorship because the hate
Yeah, you know what? President Trump brought up suburbs and how suburbs are getting destroyed by, I don't know.
Right, they have to just mention them in the same sentence as terrorist organization as though they're on the watch list. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
I mean, it's really messed up that they keep doing it, because I'm just like,
use the word dog with it. I mean, they always use the terminology to try to,